I'd always wanted to fly. My dad got me a ride in a small Cessna aircraft when I was 8 years old, and I jumped out of that airplane and said, I'm gonna do that when I grow up. I went out to the Air Force at Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth. I failed the physical because I had high blood pressure, but I didn't. I was just a young, excited kid. But they didn't recognize that. Somebody said, well, the Navy has airplanes. And I went out to the Navy for a physical. And the corpsman there recognized that I was a excited young kid. And so they said, oh, your blood pressure's a little up here. Let's just sit down here. I'll turn the lights out for you. And just rest about 15 minutes, we'll be back. And I was in the Navy because I didn't have the high blood pressure. I had what I didn't know at the time was known as the white coat syndrome. And I reported in February the 8th of 1968. I had my final assignment, which was the Ghost Riders, VA 164 in Lemoore, California. Trained with them. Then the squadron was deployed back to Vietnam. We were on Dixie Station out of the Gulf of Tonkin, and we were doing bombing runs for supplies on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I had a Super 8 millimeter camera. The metal smith manufactured a mount that I could put right behind the gun sight and then mount the Super 8 camera there so that for memorabilia's sake, bring home movies of landing on the carrier and hooking up the probe on the airplane to a drogue. It still brings back great memories for us that were there. One of the most beautiful things I saw were the enlisted guys that were working the symphony of the flight deck. Each of them had a different color shirt. Purple was fuelers, red was ordnance, and browns were plane captains. So you had a group of young men that our lives depended on, and they performed flawlessly. It really was a symphony. On 2 different occasions, I was hit by AAA, and I got a hole in my wing, which was where the fuel is located, and it all started running out. And so in order to make it back to the carrier, I had to tank up. My roommate met me over the beach and put my probe in the basket and tanked all the way back to the ship and landed without a vent. I acknowledged that God was in control the whole time because on both of those events, it was quite clear to me that he wasn't done with me yet. So we finished our first cruise all on Dixie Station down in the south of the DMZ zone. Came back, got new pilots, some new pilots. I was there for 2 cruises. I got out of the Navy just prior to the end of Vietnam and went across the West looking for a job. I'd applied to different airlines and never heard from them. So I went off looking for other means of employment in the air. Ultimately, I was out of flying for 15 years. When I heard the airlines had started hiring again, I was then asked for an interview at Alaska Airlines. And a month later, I was flying for Alaska Airlines. Turned out to be a 17-year career. I was actually flying corporate after that for like 13 years. So I got to fly up until 75. I'd still be doing it today if somebody'd hire me